All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 306 Fantasy Football Podcast. We're here recording our episode 119 for our Wednesday, March 20th episode. And for this week, we are going to be talking a little bit about free agency. We're doing a little bit of a different way than we normally do. Normally give the old letter grade and we go back and forth, a little bit of banter in that way. But we thought, maybe we give a little bit of a spin here, talk about the landing spots that individuals got. We're calling this one free agency better or worse. And then if we get a little chance to, maybe we can throw in a little bit of a buy or sell in there too, if the situation is an interesting case, whether you be, maybe trying to pick them up at a discount in fantasy, or whether you be, trying to sell high at this point too. So a little bit of fun in all the in different aspects of fantasy football this week. Before we get into it, we'll say hello to the fellas, and then like I said, we'll dive into some of the action here. So we'll start things off with Armand. Armand, what's been keeping you busy here this last couple weeks?
Oh man, been a roller coaster last few weeks. Just got announced yesterday in the division, but I'm moving into a different position at the school division and going to be a consultant for the rest of the school year. So we'll see how that goes. A little nervous, a little excited, a little sad to be leaving St. Mary for the rest of the school year. And like my class that I'm with for the most part, the FI class there at St. Mary, they're not too happy I'm leaving, but they almost made me cry yesterday when I told them because they were so upset. But yeah, looking forward to it though.
Yeah, it's exciting. Actually, I just heard that this morning in one of our meetings, so I was gonna text you, but I was like, oh, I don't know if it's like out there or not or whatever. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna let Armin kind of make his announcement. But they're talking about in our meetings today, so that's kind of it's exciting for you and a new a new path and something different along the old dusty trail here of Armin Schellenberg. We were at St. Francis, and then St. Francis over to St. Mary. Now St. Mary on to something new. So that's awesome. Zach, what about yourself? You've been keeping you busy.
Yeah, congratulations, Armin. That's super exciting. I had no idea. Good for you.
Thank you,
Um,
thank you.
Definitely not as exciting as Armin's news, but I finished the Dynasty, the Patriots documentary on
There
Apple
you go.
TV. So that's
That's on par.
Big news.
that's my big news.
Right on. Yeah, well, I don't have anything like Armin's got there, but it's been a busy week here. We got report cards and strike and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's been a busy time, so looking forward to I'm looking forward to Easter. I know we just had a break, but I'm already looking forward to the next one. Get a chance to restart the batteries. But this will be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to this one. We start with free agency. We talk about, oh, good landing spot for that team, good landing spot for that team. But I always find that, we tend to talk more about the player and themselves and then like their role on the team, less on the fantasy aspect. And, obviously running a fantasy football podcast, figure, maybe we shake this things up a little bit. So I'm excited about this episode, especially with this time of year when if you're in a dynasty, this is a lot of fun because before the draft, there's some interesting buy low opportunities where you can try and take advantage of some value. So before we get into that, we got a quick question of the week here. And it is related to an NFL team. And the question is, which NFL team do you think had the best or the worst free agency? So I left it open to, you can pick which one you want and then pick a team and tell us a little bit about why. So we'll start this one off with Zach. Zach, who did you pick? And I guess which end of the spectrum did you pick?
Well, I think I went with one of the more obvious answers, and I said the Falcons, and they got better through free agency. Obviously the big name in the market was Kirk Cousins, and they landed Cousins, and I think that aside from the obvious fact that gives them at least a starter, at some point this season, depending on how his rehab goes. I think that really frees them up to be flexible come draft time because if I'm not mistaken, they're picking eighth overall, and there's a lot of chatter about them almost having to go and get into the top four, top five picks to try to get a top four quarterback in the draft. But now that they have Cousins, they can really sit back, let the draft come to them, possibly pick up, one of the top two tackles, offensive tackles, if they were so inclined, or maybe a team's trying to climb up and make a trade, and that's a team that I think might be well suited to move back a little bit and get some extra picks. I also like what they did with Darnell Mooney coming in as their wide receiver 2. Mooney, a couple years ago before he got hurt, had a really nice breakout year with Chicago, where he had 81 receptions and just over 1,000 yards receiving. And on his season, he's averaged over 12 yards per reception. So I think he's a nice kind of under the radar signing, somebody that could really flourish in a system where there's a good quarterback and some big weapons around him to take some of that attention away. Also, if there ever was a time for Rondell Moore to kind of break out, it might be here in Atlanta, where he's going to be like the fourth option, fifth option on a lot of plays.
Yeah, like Kirk Cousins just opens up that team. Like for years we've been talking about the options on that team, and they're quarterback away. But no, they not only did they pick up the quarterback, they picked up so many other weapons to make that team just a more well-rounded. Like they got to be, I would say, pretty confident the betting favorites to win that division now after just the short little couple of weeks of free agency they've had, and we haven't even had the draft yet. But that team is bolstering up quick to be one of the powerhouse teams in that division. Armand, well, I'll go to you here. Who's a team that you've selected, and once again, what end of the spectrum did you select?
All right, I'm gonna go with a team that I think did the best so far, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. They have the big signing of Saquon that obviously Barkley adds a lot to that offense, makes it really tough to stop when you have to consider Barkley and then Jalen Hurts running, but also his ability to stretch the field vertically as well with his passing. So they did a really good job by adding that extra weapon to their offense that they just never had in their run game before. Not that they had slouches there, but Barkley is just on another level compared to those guys. But then you look at even though they lost Kelsey, they still signed two guards to kind of bolster their offensive line and make it a little bit stronger. Adding a lot of defensive players. The biggest defensive signing would be CJ Gardner-Johnson. So I think it takes a team that everyone had Super Bowl aspirations for last year, and I think they got better, and that's kind of scary, right? It's kind of moves that make you think that they might be able to pull it off this year instead of collapsing like they did last year.
I thought you were going to put like the worst was going to be Minnesota, but I didn't know if you want to dunk on your own team that bad. They're a team that's loading up for they'll be a fun draft team to watch because the offseason has been lackluster so far for them.
Yeah, you know what? Like I am getting excited for the future of the team though, watching the moves that they've made. As like Kirk Cousins leaving sucks in a way that like he was on fire the last two seasons in Minnesota. I've slowly became a fan of him, but also like he's kind of that guy that like he isn't elite, and I'm hoping that Minnesota makes a move to get an elite QB. I'll be really sad if they don't end up getting an elite QB in the draft this year. But it makes me excited for the future. And maybe not excited for next year as much, but like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, Minnesota. But who knows? Maybe if they do get an elite QB in the draft, they'll be able to be a contender this year.
Speaking of that division, that's where I'm going to go with this one too. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears, and I think they somehow had one of the best off seasons until their final transaction. And their final transaction, I think, was a bit of a doozy. And I think I don't know if that's, the perception of value or if it was the um I guess the a decision to just move on and count your losses or what. But I'm going Chicago Bears. I think they had a really, really good offseason and they've kickstarted their rebuild here. It started off with one of the very first signings before even the free agency period happened, and they got Kevin Byard, 2-year contract, one of the defensive backs. I think that was a great signing, relatively cheap, all things considered too. Then they picked up Gerald Everett, tight end, add to the offense. They picked up DeAndre Swift to a 3-year contract, who we'll talk about here shortly. And then they made a deal with the Los Angeles Chargers, and they traded for Keenan Allen for a 4th-round pick, which is really, in the grand scheme of things, for a player of the caliber of Keenan Allen, is nothing. Like when you think about what teams have had to give up for like a Devonte Adams, granted there's a bit of an age gap there, and less of the injury risk with Devonte Adams in comparison to a Keenan Allen. But when you have the skill set of a Keenan Allen and you're only giving him a 4th-round pick to get him, that was a steal, and that was an eye opener, and a little bit of concern, obviously, for a fan within the division, but also a bit of a head scratcher. Like, I know Chargers, you're in tough year with the contracts and whatnot, but man, you gave up a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion, for a 4th-round pick. So I thought that was kind of like, oh boy. And then the final transaction that I alluded to was giving up Justin Fields for essentially a 6th-round pick. I think at max, if I remember correct, Zach, me quote, fix this if I'm wrong, but at best it can turn into a 4th-round pick. It's a 6, but it can at best turn into a 4th. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the stipulation on that one is he has to play. I think it's 51% of the team's snaps this season for it to become a 4th.
So
That
I
sounds
mean,
right.
yeah, so shy of like injury, like I imagine Russell Wilson's going to start the season. He's going to start probably the first 4 weeks for sure. And then maybe we get some QB controversy, and then maybe it's the bye week. Like it's almost like the rookie treatment again for for unfortunately for Justin Fields. But not that one. I thought personally you could have got more than a 6th. Like I thought you could have got a 4th that turned into a 2nd, that kind of thing. But going to a team like Pittsburgh, who just got Russell Wilson, the compensation wasn't there. The quotes were already out that teams are willing to pay for backup. But like a 6th-round pick, I just had on the tip of my tongue, and now it's escaping me here. But you're looking at some other teams that gave up 6th-round picks to go and get oh boy, was it the Jacksonville gave up a 6th-round pick to New England, where
Yeah,
like I
Mac
would
Jones was a
like,
6th.
like I would
Uh,
drastically rather have Justin Fields than Mac Jones. Like that's not even a question. So I mean, when you put apples to apples here, I guess like it's not a great offer, and the market probably dried up a little bit, but like Minnesota. You don't think you could have slapped together a 6th-round pick? You just signed Sam Darnold for a $10 million contract. Like you don't think Justin Fields has more to offer to your offense than Sam Darnold? Like that's where it's a little bit confused. There's lots of teams out there that could have took a swing and to an opportunity of him for more than a 6, but maybe that's not the market. But I think if Chicago would have got more, I think this would have been an exceptional start to their offseason, and almost maybe the cherry on top of the rebuild they've been putting together for the past couple of years. Going into our free agency, better or worse. So the way this is going to work, we're going to talk about a player. We're going to talk about the new landing spots, and then we can banter a little bit. Some of them might be a little bit quicker than others. It might just better moving on. There's not much to talk about, but some of them there might be a bit of a banter and a few questions back and forth. But the first one we're going to start with is Saquon Barkley to Philly. So landing within division, so same conference, same division, just going over from the blue to the green. And Saquon Barkley, we already talked about this one. Um, Better offense, went from one of the worst, if not the worst offensive line to one of the best, if not the best offensive line in the NFL. So obviously Saquon, the player, this is a good landing spot. But then, there's a lot of concern about Saquon with the tush push. Is he going to get the touchdowns? Is he going to Is he going to be the beneficiary of maybe not getting brought down the one and he'll get more, you know, more touchdowns, or is he going to get more carries, or all these things all to be considered. So we'll start with Zach here. Is this a better situation for Saquon as a fantasy player? Obviously not as a football player, but in the fantasy perspective, is this a better situation for Saquon Barkley? Managers, I guess the same or worse?
I certainly think it's a better situation. You detailed how the offensive line in Philly is substantially better than the offensive line in New York. Um, in addition to that, the weapons on the outside are also a lot better in Philly than they are in New York. Teams won't have the luxury of being able to stack the box against Barkley, where in New York they knew if they shut Barkley down, they were likely going to be fine. Um, having single coverage on the skill players on the outside in New York. So that won't be the case in Philly. So he should see some lighter boxes in addition to having better blocking ahead of him.
Is
Certainly there's that risk of losing some touchdowns, um, especially in short yardage with Hurts. But I think you got to take the good with the bad and just chance it. If you're betting on touchdown production, you might see some more touchdowns on maybe some bigger runs, perhaps.
Yeah. Does this create, Armin, in your opinion, does this create like like a buy window for Saquon if people are concerned about the tush push? Like he's 27 years old. Maybe the best years are behind him. Maybe he's got a lot more to prove. So as we sit here and banter, it's these types of discussions that create buy or sell opportunities in fantasy football. Not everybody's on the same side of the fence. I'd be shocked if there's anybody in fantasy football that maybe Christian McCaffrey, everybody's like all in. Even Steelers, there are probably some people that are concerned about injury risk. I don't know, but it's that banter, that back and forth where you can create these, illusions that's like, hey, this is why you want to buy Saquon. Hey, this is why you'd want to sell him. Oh, there's an opportunity to buy low because people are scared of the tush push, and I'll sell high because it's the best offense he's ever been. Like it's this type of banter where that creates off-season fun. So you as a fantasy manager, Armin, do you think that this is an opportunity to, go kick some tires on Saquon managers that are concerned about, some of the things that Zach has brought up, or are you on the other side where it's like, best offense they ever had. He's 27 years old. Maybe there's an opportunity to dish it while it's hot.
I guess one thing to always say when we talk about dynasty perspective is it all depends on where you're going with your team in the end of it too, right? I was sitting on the south side, mostly because, like you said, he's 27 years old. He is going to probably have a good few seasons in Philadelphia, and you might be kicking yourself that you sold him when he was about to have these big seasons. But I also think that at some point this season would be a good time to sell him, maybe even at the end of the season, because you want to um try to capitalize on that the highest point when you sell your player. And I think the highest point for Saquon in Dynasty to sell him would be sometime between now and the end of this fantasy season that's coming up. And so that's why I'm putting him on the sell side.
I think it'd be a sneaky buy. Like I can't imagine there's too many people that are like that concerned that they're willing to like just sell to the wolves. You're gonna have to buy a little bit of a premium, but like I think at this point Saquon could finish as RB1. Like he could finish as the number one RB on the season, where if he would have re-signed with New York, I don't think that's the sentiment I would have been sharing. Or if there would have been some other teams, like if you would have signed with Washington, like there's other teams that were looking for running backs that I don't think that could have happened. But I think this is gonna be a fun landing spot. I would be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about the tush push, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun watching Saquon in this offense. The next one is the running back that left Philadelphia this past season, his first full season of health. And DeAndre Swift is going to Chicago, signed a 3-year deal, got actually quite a bit of money, more money than I thought he was going to receive, and signed very early on in free agency. So this is a situation now where leaving, I guess you could call it a three-headed committee in Philadelphia to now, possible three-headed committee in Chicago. So, Armin, do you think this is a situation where, it got better for Swift managers or it got worse for Swift managers?
I think it got worse. Like I guess the one argument you could make for maybe it being a better situation for him if you wanted to, but it's not going to be a better offense than Philly in Chicago this year with a rookie QB. But maybe with a rookie QB, he gets more opportunities, you know? So maybe that's the argument you can make. But then you also look like he's got Roshan Johnson staring it down the barrel at him, trying to steal some touches away. And he's a young, strong back that we know in this league can make some noise. And Khalil Herbert is still there as well. Honestly, like it almost seems like there's more competition for touches in Chicago than there was in Philly for him. So I think it's worse, more competition, not as good of a offense. And with a rookie QB, there's going to be lumps along the way, so shorter possessions potentially, with that rookie QB. Like it's probably going to be Caleb Williams, but there's still going to be growing pains.
Hey, but
Like Trevor
no
Lawrence, look
tush
at
pushes
like
though. No tush pushes in
what?
Chicago.
Yeah, no tush pushes, but you got to get to the goal line to get those goal line touches.
That's,
And
that's a
if
good
they're not
point.
a good offense, they're not going to get there. So um, they got to do something to prove otherwise here. So, like I said, rookie QB, even if it's Caleb Williams, who's supposed to be the best prospect we've seen in a long time, um, they're still going to be growing pains.
Are you in that situation? Honestly, Zach, I don't even know if you even are a Swift owner in any of our leagues we're in, but put yourself in the shoes of the Swift managers. Is this one of those ones where you're like, hey, this is awesome, and people come buying, or are you somebody that's like, hey, maybe this is an opportunity to be going and buying Swift with some of these concerns of the rookie quarterback, but under 3-year contract nonetheless. So, would you be pursuing a Swift manager, or would you be trying to get out while the iron's hot?
Yeah, this one's tricky. I don't love it, but I certainly don't hate it either. I think there's a few things in Swift's favor. The the team there in Chicago, they knew what they had in Johnson and Herbert, and yet day one of free agency, they went out and signed him to a 3-year, $24 million contract with 15 guaranteed. Uh, to me, that says they were looking for something. I don't think they were completely sold on what they had in their backfield. Maybe they just wanted a third back, and you could have gotten a third back in the draft. So I think them going out and investing that kind of money, that showed me that they were looking for something more than what they had. Additionally, I think we've seen before and time and time again, rookie quarterbacks tend to do a lot of checkdowns. The game's a little bit quicker, a little bit different than it is in college, and they tend to check down to the running back quite a bit, at least in their rookie season. So if Swift is on the field, I think that plays into his favor. He's uh, not an exceptional receiver, but he's pretty good. It's not his calling card, but it's definitely not something that people hold against him. Certainly, that offense isn't as good as it is in Philly, in Chicago, but Chicago does have the ninth overall draft pick as it is right now, and they can certainly go and get one of the top 2 or 3 tackles. So this offensive line could be pretty good here. They got a right tackle last year. They go and get a left tackle this year. It could be a pretty good team that you guys are going to be seeing in your division for the next several years.
Yeah, I'm genuinely concerned. Like if they have a good draft, obviously, like you're not gonna swing and miss on the 101. You're gonna see him for 5 years. Like he's gonna, or for sure the 4 years, you're gonna see him. He may turn into a bust, who knows, but you're gonna see him for 4 full years. And if they hit on some of the ninth pick and then some of their second and third rounders, this is gonna be a good team. So I think that kind of creates an opportunity. Like if you see the pathway to success for Swift, you can get him cheaper than you can get some of these guys that got these flashy signings. So it could be an interesting little buy low opportunity, even though he just signed a 3-year contract. Like we were talking about Swift as dead in the water and NFL career over this time last year when he was ended up in Philly, and there's rumors that Philly was going to cut him before the season even started. So could be a fun little turnaround for fantasy managers. Derrick Henry, I think we can all agree that this one it got better. Tennessee was was worse for wear. They were going the wrong direction real quick and going into one of the better offenses in the NFL, a run heavy, run first team. I think we can agree that Derrick Henry managers are loving this one. A 2-year deal for Derrick Henry doing Baltimore, but Derrick Henry being older, tread on the tires. I don't know if you could have traded him for much this offseason if he would have stuck around in Tennessee. But now in Baltimore, maybe sweetening the pot. And I think, Armin, you hit the nail on the head. Okay, it's all perception. Are you going for the title? Then maybe this is a buy. If your team is rebuilding, then you're selling. But then maybe let's put a number on this one. You're a competing team. What is the cap you're willing to spend to go get Derrick Henry and put him on your team as a competing team?
Oh,
Put you on the spot.
yeah, that is a lot. That's you know what?
Like,
Dynasty
would you pay a second?
draft.
Would you pay a
What?
second?
I think I would pay a second.
Would you pay a
I
first?
I was I think I was about to say I would do a late first because those draft picks can sometimes be busts, whereas you're going to get good production here for a few years out of Derrick Henry, right? So
Yep.
you're not missing out on much necessarily. Like you could miss out on something big potentially, but I wouldn't pay a top end first rounder, but if I was sitting later in the draft, I'd trade my late first for him.
You agree, Zach?
Yeah, one QB league, I would do 105 and everything else after that if I was a legit contender um for a championship.
Imagine
You've
saying that 3 weeks ago. Imagine saying you're
yeah,
gonna give the 106 for Henry 3 weeks ago. We would have been giggling.
I
Yeah.
think if you're a legit team and if he's going to be in your starting lineup and he's not just kind of like a tertiary extra piece, but if he's what you're missing outside of Harrison, Neighbors, Adunze, and Bowers, I think you could probably make that argument that this year, next year, he's probably going to help you more than any of those receivers that you're going to get, and certainly any of the running backs that you're going to get in the draft.
Yeah.
Keeping on with the running back train, we got Joe Mixon, who was cut and then not cut and then traded. So if he was cut and released and would have gone to free agency, I'm curious on where he would have ended up. But the trading suitor was Houston, so this landing spot I think is an awesome landing spot. I mean, you could argue both ways; it got better or worse because a new offense you got to get established in that offense, but you got a young quarterback, a promising team and they went out in pursuit to trade you. They didn't even sign you in for agency. They traded for you. So I think the situation for Joe Mixon is great, but for a fantasy manager, isn't. I like it. I like it a lot actually, but I also like the optics it makes because as a Joe Mixon manager, maybe I'd be inclined to maybe sell him at this point because we've seen the last couple of years, the ups and downs, the roller coasters of inconsistencies that is Joe Mixon. Not to mention you throw in, was it week 6 where he got like 5 touchdowns and had that monstrous week that elevates him to a top 12 fantasy RB finish. But, in the consistency scales, maybe he wasn't the most beneficial player to your roster. So maybe this is an opportunity to sell out because I know there are some people that are going to be really happy with Houston, including me. I'm a Joe Mixon manager. I'm very happy landing in Houston, but maybe the buzz around this one is an opportunity that's like, hey, you're going to get some pretty good value because everybody is trying to get pieces of Houston right now. A young sophomore quarterback, lots of wide receivers that had huge fantasy outputs. This is a hot team, and they're kind of the talk of the summer here going into fantasy season. So this might be one of those ones where it's like, yeah, it seems good, but also the value seems a lot better to maybe sell at this point. But I'm curious, Zach, is where your mindset is on this one.
This one I said slightly better. I think Mixon going from Cincinnati to Houston. I think that the Houston offensive line is better than it is in Cincinnati. They've been working hard, it seems, the past couple seasons to upgrade that offensive line, but I still think Houston has a better offensive line. So I think just based on that alone, probably a better landing spot for him. Yeah.
Rapid fire for you here. I'm going to ask you this next one because the one following on the docket, I want to ask Armin because it's a Minnesota landing spot. So I'll save that one for him. You are an Austin Eckler owner, Zach. You've had him for a few years in our dynasty league that all three of us are in. Unfortunately, had a down season this past year. Now, new landing spot. We all three say worse. But what do you do as an owner of Austin Eckler? Like somebody comes and offers you a late second. Like I can't imagine you're accepting a late second for Austin Eckler. So you're kind of sitting in a wait and hold and see situation. But talk me through your mindset with Austin Eckler this offseason.
Yeah, I probably got caught holding on to him a season longer than I should have. Yeah, it's tough. Uh
But you're in a
and
situation though, you're a competer. Like you're competitive,
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
competing for the championship. You couldn't have just bailed out. So it's you're caught one way or the other, but yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, going from an offense that seemed to really fit his skill set there in LA, now going to the Commanders. Maybe Commanders have a rookie quarterback, still get those checkdowns. Uh, might work out for him, but he, leaving the Chargers where there really wasn't any competition on the ground to now going to Washington where say what you will about Robinson. I think he is a decent running back, so there is some competition there. Um, and the weapons on the outside aren't as good either, so it's hard to say. I don't think it's a good or I don't think he improved in any way. Probably just want to hold on at this point, I think, and then try to sell come training camp. Maybe there's some good news, some
Yeah.
hot headlines, or if that doesn't work, keep your fingers crossed for early season. Maybe he hits it big, has a big week like he's been known to have, and then you can sell when the iron's at its peak, when it's its hottest.
It might not be the hottest it takes to say that Brian Robinson has a better fantasy season than Austin Eckler this upcoming year in the exact same offense. That might not even be a hot take to say out loud. But this next one, we have Josh Jacobs, which we'll talk about shortly, comes to Green Bay. We got Josh Jacobs and we got Aaron Jones in Green Bay at the exact same time. Then Aaron Jones very quickly gets cut, then very quickly signs in Minnesota. So we'll get to Josh Jacobs in a bit, but I like the Minnesota one here to go to Armand. This is your team. You got the nose to the pavement here, or the ear to the pavement, whatever the saying is. You're our Minnesota guy here, Armand, and we've seen a lot of Aaron Jones over the years from Green Bay, and now he's in Minnesota. And you are saying this is a better situation. So I'm very curious as to why you think it's better. And then, maybe you're going to be putting some offers out to him, or would you be trying to fire him away?
Yeah. You know what? He was starting to get pushed out, especially after the Josh Jacobs signing. Like that's definitely better for him to move to Minnesota. Now, better than last year. It's not that much better, but I think that Minnesota offense is a bit more explosive with Kevin O'Connell's offense. Now they need a new QB, of course, but kind of going the opposite argument of DeAndre Swift here. Minnesota has their poop in a row a little bit better offensively. So even with a rookie QB, they're going to find ways to be productive offensively than I think Chicago will. So I think Aaron Jones is going to benefit from having that rookie QB that hopefully they sign. Plus they have Sam Darnold as a bridge QB, and Kevin O'Connell is going to find ways to get Jones the ball and be productive in Minnesota. And yeah, I like it for Jones. I think he'll have a good season and a better season than he did last year in Green Bay.
Yeah, I put it as a buy. Like he was injured lots of last year, so people were like frustrated with his production last year. He had a bad year, bad fantasy production. He was injured for most of it. And when he was healthy and when he played, he was outstanding. Now
Yeah.
you're leaving Green Bay and you're going to Minnesota. There's a lot of uncertainty. So I think I'm not an Aaron Jones owner, so I think for me to say this is easy as an outsider, but I'd be concerned with a lot of things going on, but I'm not involved in that situation. So I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic here. I'm optimistic as an outsider, being like, hey, there's lots of opportunity for him to get better. So, maybe there's a buy low opportunity. So that's one guy I'm a little bit interested in kicking the tires on this season. Leading up, maybe Minnesota makes a splash in the draft, and then maybe the stock even goes a little bit further down. But I that's a name that I'm pretty interested in. But
Well, and
oh,
so
sorry.
here's the thing as well, that like this kind of signaled to me that they were going to try and go for a rookie QB, because you start to get veterans on the offense to surround a rookie QB, invest a little bit in those guys, while you can, when you don't have to pay a lot in the QB room. So
And he
um
can catch the ball. Like he's very
yeah,
good at it.
yeah. So I think his skill set and his leadership too. He's a good leader, right? You never really hear much about DeAndre Swift being a good leader, but I know Aaron Jones was a great leader on the Packers, so he's going to be a great leader in that Minnesota locker room, helping foster the new era of the Minnesota Vikings and get it kickstarted.
Definitely, for sure, for sure. Okay, so we talked about Josh Jacobs already. Guess we'll go through a couple of these a little bit quicker here, but Zach, buying or selling there, and if you are, what's the target price for a guy that had an exceptional season 2 years ago, and then a little bit of a down year this past year?
I think we're looking at him probably the same way that we were looking at Aaron Jones just a couple months ago. They're probably pretty similar. I don't think you can reasonably expect Jacobs to have a similar season to what he had 2 years ago. I think that was kind of the outlier more so than the standard. However, I will say, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe AJ Dillon is back in Green Bay.
No, he did.
So, oh, he did resign.
He did, yeah.
Okay, so I was going to say, if he's gone, less competition, but he's back. So, really, I'm looking at him the same way. However you valued Aaron Jones, that's probably what you should be valuing Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, they signed him for a 4 year, like real cheap, nothing deal. So I mean, I don't know what his involvement's actually going to be, but regardless, Calvin Ridley to the Tennessee Titans. Talking about the bad team taxes when we were talking about our free agent guessing period there 2 weeks ago. But Calvin Ridley going to Tennessee, they needed a wide receiver in a bad way, and I know Zach, this was a tough one. You wanted it in a bad way, it didn't work out. But Armand. You were the resident Calvin Ridley guy this past season here. You wanted him bad, and he was your guy. Do you still want him bad, or are you off the train now?
I'm off the train. Not a great situation in Tennessee. Plus, there's DeAndre Hopkins still there, so a good receiving duo, but not much at the QB position. Hopefully, Will Levis can figure it out. I don't know, but I'm not a true believer in him, and yeah. So Calvin Ridley's kind of getting long in the tooth now as well. So I'm in a sell situation here. Definitely not the Jags offense, even if he isn't sharing it with two other receivers and instead just one this year. He's not going to be nearly as productive, I think, as he was with Lawrence.
No, bad quarterback play is not going to be the answer to that one. Marquez Hollywood Brown to Kansas City Chiefs is going to be one of the most interesting guys to watch ADP this upcoming fantasy season, in any sort of redraft format, keeper format, whatever it is. It's going to be fascinating to watch what happens to him. So we'll go to Zach for this one. Like, what is the price? Like, what is, I guess, the price you're willing to pay? Because he's not MVS. He is a much better receiver than MVS. To be on, let's take the top off type receiver for a very good offense. Like, are we talking first? Are we talking two first? Are we talking a first and a second? Like, what's the cap you'd be willing to pay for him in a dynasty league?
Yeah, this one's interesting. You probably couldn't have found a better match, as far as player and team fit. And the quarterback there in Kansas City, obviously, quite a bit better than quarterback there in Arizona. So everything's coming up Hollywood Brown. His value though, as far as draft capital, is interesting. This is a maybe one of the strongest wide receiver drafts that I have seen in terms of my involvement in dynasty football. There's going to be like 7, 8. I've even seen mock drafts that have 9 wide receivers going in the first round. That's not to mention the guys that go in the second. So a lot of talent there in the draft, and that's going to translate to obviously a lot of uh first and second round picks being wide receivers in your dynasty draft. So really it's, are you going for the young brand new thing with your 107, like Brian
Hopeful,
Thomas?
like a hopeful.
Yeah, like a true blue like boom or bust. You don't know. Brian Thomas from LSU could be huge, could flame out and be nothing in a year and a half. Or do you go with Hollywood Brown? You kind of know what he is. You kind of think, well, maybe this is the best situation he's been in, despite being with Lamar, despite being with Murray, but now he's with Mahomes. Maybe they're going to be the team that really, unlocks him, and he has this, 1,300-yard, 11 touchdown season. So it's really kind of what risk do you want to take on? Do you want to take on the risk of a young player, or do you want to take on a risk of like I don't know, is it a 6-year pro at this point in time?
Yeah, I think this is his, yeah, 6th year, I think. 5th or 6th. No, 6th, I think. Trying to remember when he was drafted. He was a first round pick. I
Same,
think he was like
yeah,
15th overall.
same year as like Debo and
Yeah.
DK and Brown, Nikhil Harry. I'll
He
never
was like
forget you.
15th pick. Does that sound right? Or is
Yeah,
it like,
first receiver in that draft.
hey, look at me. That's a pretty good memory for a guy that can't even remember to pronounce his name. So I'll take that. Next on the list here, we're gonna go down here to Keenan Allen. We talked about him at the top of the episode. First ballot Hall of Famer on an offense where he was peppered with targets. Like he would have, there's weeks last season where he was finishing with 14, 15 targets. Not, sorry, not 15, 14, 15 receptions, let alone targets. Fantasy gold in any sort of PPR format. But now going to a different offense, going to have a rookie quarterback. Armand, this is an interesting one. We've already been talking to you a little bit about the rookie quarterback situation. You said you're not a fan of fantasy in the rookie quarterback situation, but could Keenan Allen be, that safety blanket, just where Keenan Allen's out there somewhere, he's just gonna have to get it kind of situation? Or, is this a guy on the back nine that's coming in just to be an additional option to a rookie quarterback? So for fantasy perspective, is he gonna be that PPR guy, or are you looking to get out?
I'm looking to get out. He's getting older. DJ Moore is there, and at this point in their careers, I'd say DJ Moore is the better offensive weapon than Keenan Allen. So, situationally, it's worse. He's not the top dog in the offense anymore, which might give him some more big playability, but he's also not going to be the target hog that I think he once was in this offense. I think it's going to be more DJ Moore, plus DJ Moore has been there a year already, so there's that familiarity with the offense already, as well. And yeah, growing pains with Caleb Williams. I saw his up and down season in college, and that's why I'm saying it with him, is that like he has all the talent in the world, but it's not going to be 100% smooth sailing right off the bat. Yeah, sure, there could be potential to have the CJ Stroud rookie season, but I honestly don't think he will have the CJ Stroud rookie season. I think he'll have a good rookie season, but yeah, I'm staying on that. Maybe that's my hot take for
Yeah.
tonight. We'll
Well,
see here.
this is exactly why I feel like I kind of want to buy Keenan Allen, because so many people are like, let's just get out. He's old. This is gonna be a bad situation. Like, it could be a PPR dream still, some way, somehow. Like it's in the cards, but I feel like I'm just gonna be more frustrated than I'm gonna enjoy the ride. So like I don't even know if I don't know if there's a price to pay that's willing to be the frustration that very well could be, you know, cheering for Keenan Allen in this offense. So that's one that I'll keep you guys in the loop, but I feel like I might end up trying to ride that roller coaster one more time. So next we got Jerry Jeudy, just signed a big contract today, actually, too. Got traded, then signed the 3-year deal with Cleveland. Um, I literally wrote in the docket, I'm uncertain. I'm uncertain whether I want him. I'm uncertain whether this is better or worse. I don't know. I have no idea how to perceive this one. So I'm curious on the overall, optics of people in fantasy. And I think if you rode the Jerry Jeudy train before, you haven't enjoyed the ride. Let's just put it that way. But Zach, are are you gonna are you actively pursuing Jerry Jeudy this offseason, or is this just like, you know what, maybe a situation got a little better, but I'm just still not interested in fantasy at this point.
Yeah, I think that was a great description of how people are likely looking at Jerry Jeudy right now in fantasy. Um, I think his situation got better, but better enough that I'm interested in actively going after him. Likely not. I think it likely comes down to if you've been a Jerry Jeudy believer, through time up until now, you probably think this is a lot better, a positive landing spot. If you haven't been a Jerry Jeudy believer up until now, it probably doesn't move the needle too much for you. Like, I don't think this change is really changing anybody's opinion on Jeudy. If you liked him, you still like him. If you didn't like him, you probably still won't like him. So
That's the best take I've ever heard. It's like, well, either they're in or you're out, and either you were in and you were out, and now you're in and now you're out. Like
yeah,
it's true though. Like I, I was in on Jerry Jeudy, and then I got out during the Russ trade because just the value was too good. I got out on it, and I was like, okay, thank God I got out on it. And then I'm like, did I make the right decision? Like, is this gonna be good? And it's like, I just don't believe in Deshaun Watson, so then I guess I don't believe in Jerry Jeudy either. It's like it's one of those ones where I just don't know how to feel, and I think a lot of people don't know how to feel. It's a weird situation in Cleveland, and it might be a change of pace too because they might not be that that run first offense that we've seen in the Nick Chubb offense for years here. So maybe it is a better situation, but one of those ones that you could talk yourself in and out of for the next couple months for sure. We'll end this one before we get to the ice cold hot take. We got two quarterbacks, both ending up in Pittsburgh. Now, I'm just gonna ask the question this way. Which one would you rather have on your dynasty team? Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? Armin, which one would you pick?
I'm gonna go with Justin Fields. I don't think the last chapter has been written for him yet. It's worse this season, but long term, he's gonna eventually get another shot at starting, and when he does get that shot, hopefully he holds on to it stronger than he held on to his starting spot with the Bears.
Same question to you, Zach.
yeah, I think for this year, if you're counting on either of these guys being a reliable starter, uh, you know, you might be
How
looking
the
at making different plans here.
how the
Um,
turntables have turned.
well, really, yeah. But kind of like Armin said, take the longevity of Fields going forward over the potential 1 year stint with Russ. Um, yeah, I think go with Fields with the potential. We saw what he did last year. He's a top 12 quarterback. For fantasy, probably not a top 12 quarterback in the NFL, but we saw what he can do for our game. So I think you take that potential.
I'm curious. I think that would be a fun offense. Him and Najee Harris and like a little like an option offense. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But whether or not we get to that point or not this season, that's to be determined. Wrapping this episode up here, we have the ice cold hot takes. So I'll hit the drop and Armand. First of all, if you have not been with us before for ice cold hot takes, Armand has had some of the hottest takes out of any of us on the episode, and he's also hit some of the most hottest takes. And like nailed to a T. So I'm excited to start this one up here for Armin's Ice Cold Hot Take.
You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire.
All right, so this one was a tough one to come up with actually for me. And we talked a lot about some hot things during the episode here. So I'm going to continue on with that Caleb Williams train here. Because you know what, like I'm gonna pound my fist into the dirt here on the table, talking about, I think that there he's probably, just because he's the first overall pick and is going to start all season long, he's going to end up being rookie of the year. But I don't think he's going to have the season CJ Stroud did. It's going to be an up and down fantasy season. And he's just not going to be the immediate impact that I think the Chicago Bears are hoping he's going to be. Not saying his career is not going to be good, but like you look at some of the things, like he's already like come out and said he doesn't want to be drafted by Chicago. They're going to draft him and he's not going to be happy. So how is that relationship going to be? How is that going to translate to on the field production as well when you have a guy who didn't want to be there from the first place? So you got to kind of win him over somehow, right? And so that's not really a great environment to have. Chicago has never really been known for having a good offense. They're always that defense first mindset, and I don't think it's gonna foster into a good cute young QB situation. You look at some of the guys that have flamed out already, Trubisky, Fields, right? They weren't slam dunk picks necessarily, but like they struggled in their time with Chicago as well. And I think Williams he's gonna struggle picking it up. And he had struggles in USC this last year with the pressure that was on him as well. And so that pressure is going to be on him. And he's got it. He's gonna have to mature. And you hear that a little bit from draft scouts as well about maturity being a worry, and people talked about it a little bit, but like, so I think that maturity and everything it's gonna have to come a little bit. And it's not going to be smooth sailing for Caleb Williams his whole NFL career. He's not going to be like Patrick Mahomes, who got a year to sit behind a guy and then come out flying and just take the world by storm. Even though everybody says he's the next best prospect since Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be put into the pressure cooker right away, be a starter, and in a organization that is not well known for fostering young athletes. So it's going to be a rocky road to start his career. Eventually he's going to figure it out and he's going to have a great career. But like this first year, don't expect him to set the whole NFL on fire. He'll have high moments, but he's also going to have some pretty low lows.
Okay, so you said he's not going to be the rookie of the year. Let's make this hot take. Let's give some meat and potatoes to it, Armin. Then who is going to be the rookie of the year?
Oh, well, there's a bunch of other QBs. It's going to be a QB. So let's go with the next guy up. Daniels, I think, will be the QB that in this draft class has the best rookie season. He is the one who has a lot of experience, the most dynamic. And yeah, unfortunately, he's probably going to end up a Commander, but I'm crossing my fingers.
Don't tell Zach
badly,
that.
hoping that that Minnesota ends up trading up to that numbers 2 spot and taking Daniels instead. So we'll see what happens. But I just don't know if he's O'Connell's guy, because of the system that O'Connell runs. But I would love if Jaden Daniels ended up in a Vikings uniform. So I think Daniels will be the rookie of the year over Caleb Williams.
Dark horse JJ McCarthy. He's getting so much love, it's getting out of control.
You know what? I saw an article saying that Commanders were eyeing up him instead for number 2 in the draft, which would be
Yeah, that would be spicy.
yeah. And Zach would Do you think the Patriots would take Daniels at number 3
Oh,
then
100%.
if Washington passed over him?
100%.
Well, funny thing is, like even going back last year, loads of reports were saying that Belichick loved Daniels when he was at ASU and then when he was at LSU following that. So he's been somebody that the Pats scouts at least would have known about for quite a while with that Belichick connection. However, I think the quarterback that best fits the Pats would be Drake May. I think he does a lot of what Alec Van Pelt liked out of his quarterbacks in Cleveland. So wouldn't be shocked if it was Drake May, which I'd be happy about, but that dynamicism, the dynamics that Daniels brings would be very exciting. And that would be something that the Pats have never had, not in my lifetime. Like we had a few drives of Cam Newton where it was all exciting, but for the most part,
Threw the
I've
ball
never
0
seen
times.
that.
Dude,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and if you did
But
throw the ball, it was in the stands or we're still sitting in the turf 400 feet down.
Yeah, he was throwing it over those mountains there.
Uncle
The-
Rico.
The realistic thing is that like Minnesota's probably going to get the number 4 pick. So it'd have to fall perfectly to us to get Daniels. Like it'd have to be like the reports of Washington wanting JJ are true. You guys
You
wanting
think
Drake
Arizona's
May
going to trade back?
Wow. Do you think they're gonna pick a QB? Like if like
No, but I think they want Marvin Harrison Jr. pretty damn bad though.
you think they want him that bad? Yeah. But then there's still a QB on the board at 5 for Minnesota. Like we got the 11 and 23 pick right now, and that's what they're going to be using as the major chips in the trade to try and trade up during the draft here.
Yeah,
So
100%. 100%.
Now, my question, Armand, for you, JC, chime in too if you want. We have seen over the past couple of years for teams to move up that far outside of like the top 10 into the top 5, 3 first-round picks. Would you do 2 this year and 1 next year?
if it was for Daniels, yeah. I think I was looking at the draft order before this, and honestly, with the 5 QBs, if Minnesota was happy just taking the last guy standing, they could probably get that with the 11th pick.
That's what I'm saying. Like JJ McCarthy at 11, literally like that. Remember Zach a couple years ago with the Pats? It was like Mac Jones. They're gonna get Mac Jones. You don't have to trade up for him. They're just gonna land to him. Like that's JJ McCarthy to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like he's just gonna end up there.
Yeah,
So
that
it
would be
depends
like
on how aggressive they want to be in trying to get Kevin O'Connell his guy, right? And whether or not maybe it's just like, oh, 5 great guys, whoever falls to us will be able to make him into a good QB with O'Connell, or it's like, no, we're going to get a guy that O'Connell wants. So
yeah, you would have to have balls of steel as the brass there in Minnesota because you're looking at teams that should be in the QB market that would have to pass on McCarthy. Like the Giants at what 6? What are the Raiders pick? What are they right now?
they're after us. They're
They're after
13.
you?
They're 13.
So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, you'd probably have QBs fall. Then the Cardinals, they have Murray, like you're talking, going wide receiver probably. Chargers shouldn't be picking a QB, but then yeah, you got the Giants and Titans, who theoretically should be in the QB market, but who knows?
And then
how
you're banking on other teams not jumping you, like Denver and Vegas. Like,
yeah,
yes, they don't have that other pick this year, but they could
Yeah.
go 24, 25, 26.
yeah, you never know, right? But yeah, Giants and Titans would be the biggest risk, I think, at the present moment. But like you said, you never know what happens in the draft. There could be the other teams trying to trade in as well to get those picks.
This is gonna be a fun draft here, I think. Just with the amount of wide receivers that can end up going in the first round and the amount of quarterbacks that go up in the first round. Like I've always enjoyed the draft, Zach. I know it's one of your favorite things the entire year. But as a fantasy owner or a fantasy person, this is going to be a fun draft because there's going to be a lot of fantasy implication. Like lots of years, there's the tackles, the guards, the DBs that, are in the first round. It's like, okay, like for your team, this is awesome, but for fantasy, I need to know other stuff. I need to know the goods. There's gonna be a lot of goods in the first round this year. There might not be a running back taking the first two rounds. We might not see the first running back until the third round this year, but there's gonna be a crap load of wide receivers and some wide receivers that can get some fun landing spots the late first round. Anything else to add here, fellas, before we wrap this one up?
No, it was a good one.
That'll do it. Okay, right on. Well, thanks for listening to episode 119. We'll be back in 2 weeks here for episode 120 as we start getting ourselves ready and primed up for the NFL draft. Little teaser here we had at the end of the episode. So thanks for listening, everybody. Take care, and let's talk soon.